Say that I'm really delighted to welcome everyone here today to Creativity as Inspiration and Healing. And this is a webinar event that's going to be structured as a conversation between the artist and exoneree Valentino Dixon, his daughter and Otterbein alumna, Valentina Dixon, and Otterbein alumnus, artist, and activist, Ben Willis. Our host today is going to be James Prysock, the director of the Office of Social Justice and Activism at Otterbein. And my name is Janice Glowski, and I'm the Museum and Galleries director. So just a little bit of background to get us started. Last August, I was finalizing programming for the fall 2020 exhibitions when I saw a post that Valentina had made to Otterbein's African American Student Union page. And the post linked me to a television news interview with her father and a discussion about his wrongful incarceration and his journey to becoming an exoneree after 27 years. And also the role that his art played in securing his freedom. So I reached out to Valentina and I asked if we could exhibit some of her father's work in the newly dedicated Joanne Stickway Gallery. And Valentino graciously agreed, and he selected artwork that could be exhibited. And we installed a show that featured work from some of his most prominent series, including a portrait, including portraits of prominent African Americans, and also works from his most famous golf landscape series. Yeah, so as part of our exhibition programming, we usually invite the artists, sometimes curators or art critics, to come and speak publicly about the artwork in the exhibitions. And in this case, it was a little bit of a unique situation. We could point viewers to many, many national television interviews with Valentino, an online documentary, an extensive interview event about his life and art, which had been created by Georgetown University's Prison and Justice Initiative. And they played a critical legal role in Valentino's exoneration. And if you Google, you can also find out about Michelle Obama's recent commission of Valentino's golf landscape, which was given as a present to Barack Obama. So for this webinar, we wanted to bring the conversation home, back to Otterbein, back to the place where Valentina had made an impact on our community, back to the place where she'd spent 4 years living in Otterbein as her home while her father was still incarcerated, and back to the place where she really raised our awareness about wrongful incarceration. And James and Ben were at Otterbein during this time, and so it seems fitting that they would be responsible for guiding the conversation. So I want to thank everyone for being here, especially Valentino for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedule. And I want to turn it over to you, James. We will have time for questions at the end to be typed in the chat. So if you could just wait until people are finished with the conversation, that'd be great. Over to you.
Awesome, thank you very much. And it is an absolute honor to be a part of this. Just being a part of spreading the awareness about Valentino Dixon's story on our campus, and just now seeing it come to this point. Valentino being exonerated is just a true privilege to be here today with you all. So I'm going to keep this very short. I just wanted to kind of stress the importance of what this means and what art means in our society. It's something that's truly monumental because it has the ability to make us feel in a very authentic and intentional way. It's something that could be therapeutic as well for both the artist and the observer. And art has shown us who we were, it's shown us who we are, but it's also showed us who we could be. As each brushstroke is a representation of the continual development of a masterpiece, let's keep in mind that we are all strokes that create on this canvas of this world that we share together. And we can help shape the realities of those around us. And it's our responsibility to do so. So please keep that in mind as we hear the powerful words of Valentino Dixon this afternoon. I'm going to turn over to Ben Willis, 2014 grad of Otterbein, and someone who is doing his own social justice artwork. Couldn't think of a better person to be a part of this. So happy that he's able to be our interviewer today. So without further ado, Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind, James. I'd like to extend a thank you to you, as well as Janice, Dr. Patridge, for passing along this opportunity to me, and then Otterbein for facilitating this, and then also Valentina and Valentino. Thank you for doing what you do. I'm very excited to get into it. I think it would probably be best to just do a little introduction of who I am and kind of like how I got here. But for those of you that don't know, I know that James mentioned it briefly, but me and Valentina attended Otterbein around the same time, and I believe graduated in the same class. And yes, Valentino was incarcerated. I became aware of this particular fact through a Facebook campaign at the time that Valentino was putting on. But what makes this a really unique situation and kind of extraordinary is that during my time at Otterbein, I also had a father who was incarcerated. And my father is also an artist. And I studied the arts. And me and Valentina both, it seems, have taken akin to activism, which I think is pretty remarkable, but also maybe the only course of action, considering the state of the world. Yeah, I would like to extend that kind of how we got here to Valentina and then Valentino, so that way we can kind of get a nice little background of like how we came to be.
All right, just starting with me. Hello, everyone. I'm Valentina Dixon, daughter of Valentino Dixon. Been helping my father through this incredible transition for many years now. Dad, we started out in barbershops, just talking word of mouth. This is my father, and here's his greeting cards. Can you buy a greeting card so we can, do the next step? And we started out really rough, and, it's amazing that we're here today. And sorry, I'm gonna get emotional, guys, because this is my actual life. But from there, I got older, I got wiser. I read more of the trial and studied the facts and everything that, was done unjustly to my father. And then as I learned more, I, tried to take more action. And that's where I met Ben and James at Otterbein. I felt like I had more of a voice and more of an opportunity there to speak. I also had a lot of friends who helped me. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the name Marshawn McCarroll, but he was a great influencer for me through the People's Justice Project, who inspired me to do spoken word and just raise awareness in any way I could. And essentially, we decided to go with the golf digest, right, Dad? Which was really bizarre to me because golf is just not a sport that our people play. People of color in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, I don't know, it's not something that's really highlighted. So after reaching out to the Golf Digest and just having our voice heard again by another big news firm, we sat for another 6 years on that article. And finally, we are here after Georgetown took the initiative to help with the Make an Exoneree program. And I don't know.
I'll take it from here.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just
all right. So for those that don't know the full story, I spent 27 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. Even though 8 eyewitnesses cleared me of the crime, and the person responsible for the crime confessed 2 days after my arrest. All of those witnesses and that confession was disregarded by the authorities. And I found myself going to trial 10 months later with a public defender who called no eyewitnesses, did not introduce the confession to the jury. He did not even give an opening statement. When I complained to the judge in open court, I was told to sit down and I had a great attorney. I was found guilty and given a 39-year life sentence. And I found myself in one of the worstest prisons in America, Attica Correctional Facility, where for the first 7 years, I didn't do any artwork. I didn't have the spirit to draw. You know, prison is designed to break your spirit. And my spirit was in captivity for about 7 years. And it wasn't until my uncle encouraged me to start drawing again. And he said, you may have to draw yourself out of prison, which was foreign to me. I didn't know anything about that type of language. And he says, if you can reclaim your talent, you can reclaim your life. And that sort of resonated. He sent me some colored pencils and some paper, and I started drawing every day. And during this very challenging time, you know, Valentina was growing up without a father. And she was 6 months old when I was arrested. And all I can remember in that 6x8 cell is that your baby girl needs you. And not only do you have to win your freedom, but you have to make her proud. And she ended up making me proud. You know, she stayed out of trouble. She didn't make bad choices. And she ended up in Otterbein University. And it was very difficult for a mother being a single mother, but they made it work. And she's the biggest success story in my life. And I knew that this was very difficult for her when I walked in the visiting room and she jumped up and ran all the way across the room with high heels on. And I didn't know what the hell was going on, excuse my language. She jumped in my arms and she said, Dad, I did it. And at that moment, she explained to me that she had graduated. And I didn't realize how difficult it was for her to make that accomplishment, or that it must have been really, really hard for her. And I realized then that those emotions that were flowing from her was real, okay? And however, we still had a journey, and our biggest challenges was before us, was helping me get out of prison. And she was doing everything that she in her power, whether it was Facebook, whether it was going on the campus and passing out flyers, you know, trying to sell some of my artwork to raise money. I mean, the things that this kid did for her dad is so unbelievable. I don't have words. And I want to make this, I really want to share what happened with me, but my daughter is the most important thing here. And I want you guys to know that I'm just so proud of her. She's such a beautiful person, a loving person. She loves kids, you know, she works in childhood education, and she just loved the kids. And she's always been the same. She's never turned her back on me. She would draw me pictures and write me letters when I was in prison. I have a whole big box of these things. And I'm just so honored to have a daughter so loving like her. So thanks, Tina.
Love you, Dad.
Love you too. So I'm drawing every day now, up to 10 hours a day. And I started out with something like this. Just little shapes. This is one of my earlier drawings. you know, because I was kind of rusty. I hadn't drawn for 7 years. And anything that you do in life, the more time and effort that you put into it, you're going to get better. And your skill set is going to increase, and to levels that you have no idea that you could take yourself to. You know, you could even like amaze yourself sometimes. I did so many drawings in prison that I was even shocked that I was able to create these drawings. Since most people believe that my drawings are paintings, but they're colored pencils. And here's the actual pencils that I will use in the prison cell. So here's another drawing right here of an Indian that I drew. And so I would go from Indians to abstract. I was drawing anything I could think of. And
Yeah,
I became known as the artist in Attica. And one day the warden came by and he says, "Hey, Valentino, could you draw my favorite golf hole?" As Tina says, I grew up in the inner city. What do we know about golf? I mean, 99% of us, I believe, don't know anything about golf. It's just not a sport that we take to. And I said, "Sure, I'll draw it for you." And it was a 12 hole of Augusta, which I knew nothing about. I drew the 12th hole. He loved it. Another inmate said, "Hey, Valentine, you should draw more golf holes." And I'm like, whatever. And he tossed some Golf Digest magazines on my bed. And I started drawing golf courses every day. Before I left prison, I had drawn about 300 golf course drawings. And so in reading the Golf Digest articles, there was a column called Golf Saved My Life by Max Adler. And every month, Max would cover a story where someone was going through some type of challenge or life-altering experience, and the only time they felt well or good about themselves is when they golfed. So I started correlating that with my story that I had 20 years in at the time. And we were fighting and fighting and fighting, but even with all the evidence, the 8 eyewitnesses and the confession, it just was not enough. And so with these golf drawings, I took one of them and I sent it to the Golf Digest magazine, and I informed Tina what I was doing, and I had her follow up behind my letter through an email, because of course we don't have access to computers in prison. So I was anxious and I wanted her to, speed things along. To our surprise, the Golf Digest writer, Max Adler, responded to her right away and said that he was interested in the story. And so he ended up reading my trial transcripts and the police reports that I sent him, and concluded, like anybody else that had read the case, that I didn't commit this crime. You know, authorities knew 2 days after I was arrested that I didn't commit the crime. However, a lot of times when authorities make mistakes, they refuse to admit to these mistakes because of, I guess, public embarrassment, damage to their careers, etc. You know, egos or whatever reason why people won't admit when they make a mistake. And so in July 2012, the Golf Digest magazine published my story, a 3-page article on my wrongful imprisonment and golf art. And from there, the Golf Channel got involved and did a short documentary, which was actually nominated for an Emmy Award. Okay. At the time, the prosecutor on the case agreed to an interview with the Golf Digest. During the interview, he's asked, with all of this evidence, 8 witnesses and a confession, you sure you have the right person? And he admitted on camera that he was only human, that he could have made a mistake. So we thought then that would be enough, that I was going home. However, his boss decided that they were going to stick with the verdict. And so, I mean, this was very depressing for Tina, for my mom, you know, but for me, it was a victory. You know, when you're in the worstest place on the planet, which is a prison cell, it's little things that keep your spirit strong and keep it going. you know, and it could be a visit from Tina that just lifted my spirit, and it gave me hope for 6 months, you know. And the case with the Golf Channel, the Golf Digest, God was telling me, you're going to get out of here. You're going to win your freedom. This is going to happen, irregardless if the authorities in Buffalo, New York, refuse to acknowledge, you know, the truth here. The world is slowly seeing what happened to you, and it's slowly being revealed. Shortly thereafter, Georgetown got involved, and Tina worked with the students, I worked with the students, you know, almost every day. And they decided to do a documentary of their own called Making an Exoneree. And to our surprise, the district attorney, you know, agreed to do an interview. So what I had the students do was I formulated some questions, asked him what happened to my clothing and the evidence that they collected, because they arrested me and they said if I fired a weapon, then they would know from my clothes in my car. However, they never turned over the results. So when the Georgetown students who were undergrads asked the prosecutor what happened to the testing of his clothes in his car, he casually stated that, oh, everything came back negative. Oh, okay. If it came back negative, you never turned over the results. I spoke of this evidence at my sentencing. It was silenced, but now you're saying that these things came back negative. Well, I had studied the law for a number of years, and this is what you call a Brady violation. When you don't turn over a piece of evidence that's exculpatory for the defendant. And that was ultimately the evidence that released me. Okay, it wasn't the 8 witnesses in the confession, it was the Brady violation. And I'm just glad that I hung in there, and I'm here today to be able to share my story with you guys.
Yeah, we appreciate that, Valentino. You know, the last parts of both you and Valentina kind of give me way to ask the question about kind of the practice of art being a portal, right? Or creativity being a portal. I know that the subject is kind of creativity as activism, but I think if we reduce that down, it's going to come down to, I have a suspicion about freedom. So I'm also going to pose a question to all of our participants to type in what they think or what they like about art and art making, or what they believe its function is. And then for you and Valentina, I kind of want you all to talk about, specifically, I want to hear from Valentina first about your engagement with spoken word. That's an art form, right? Especially in relation to this idea of portals. Does that, you know, kind of put you into a place, you know, where you can connect or maybe disconnect, you know, from the trials and tribulations in which we find ourselves, or maybe have you closer to, you know, your father who was incarcerated at the time?
Yeah, so when I did spoken word, it was really just an opportunity for me to vent and to feel relieved and just release that stress and anxiety of, you know, not knowing what was going to happen with my father's case. It was nerve-wracking, you know. There was a point in time where we were just breaking down. So that spoken word was just I don't know, it was my peace. It was my peace.
Mm-hmm. And what about interacting and engaging with your father's art?
What do you mean? Rephrase that question for me.
So during this time, I imagine you were visiting, maybe not as frequently, like while you're in school, but like interacting, like engaging, seeing your father's art, seeing what he's making, you know, at the particular time. Were you able to, you know, draw connection when you saw it, you know, when you weren't there?
Definitely. I actually was inspired by my father to draw on my own. I would take my coloring books, mostly Hello Kitty, but that's a side note. I would take drawing books and sketchbooks and everything to the trailer visit so that I could draw and kind of just have that same piece that he had when he would just sit there for hours and draw.
And what about you, Valentino? I mean, I've had conversations with my father about, the process of making work. One, it's just a struggle to find the materials to do so. He did it on pillowcases with like gel pens. If he could get his hands on gel pens, otherwise it was like colored pencil on just like scrap pieces of paper. I have the boxes of letters to my mother and drawings and comics that he would make. And I think for me, it was like really important to be able to like touch and hold those things now that I'm able to do that. He's since been released, but like re-engage. And like, I remember wanting to be an artist because that's what my father was. And, it was really important for me that even him being in prison couldn't take that away, like,
yeah,
you could be, behind bars, but you could never not be my father and not be an artist. And I could always look up to him like that. I was like, oh, I'll never be as good as him. He's amazing. You know what I mean? But I want to hear more about that kind of like art making, art practice as a portal, a space in which you can find peace, as Valentino said.
Well, in life, we grow in stages. So I went through many transformations. And when you're sitting for up to 10 hours a day, I would lose myself. I would put my music on and I would draw and end up in Spain somewhere. I would be eating lobster. I would be doing all the things because I went to prison at 21. So when I would draw, I would envision doing all the things I never got a chance to do in life. So it's so much more deeper than just sitting there and drawing. It takes you to an out-of-body experience in a sense that it not only gives you hope, but it gives life to your spirit. And being therapeutic, as far as art being therapeutic, is really I'm not gonna say it's an understatement. Artwork feeds your soul. It gives it all the nutrients that we need to have a strong body, a healthy body. So for me, it was, what can I do next? How can I challenge myself? I went from something small like this to something big like this. And by the way, this is the picture that Michelle Obama bought for Barack Obama. This is just a copy. Okay. And I have pictures 9 times this size. I would do big puzzle where I would take 9 of these boards and put them together like a puzzle. They were actually the drawing was actually too big to fit in my 6x8 cell. So the guards would allow me to take these 9 boards, take them outside the cell, put them on their catwalk, and then sketch it all out and make it fit together like a puzzle. Then I would take all 9 boards back in the cell and start putting color to the paper. So for me, it was everything. I mean, it actually saved my life.
Yeah.
And also, Ben, I was very fortunate to be able to have enough support where I had pencils, all the color pencils that I needed, all the paper that I needed from family members. And that wasn't the case with everybody in there. I was truly blessed to be able to have these supplies. In most cases, guys just could not afford a pack of color pencils. you know, and yeah, that's what it did for me.
And the commissary and you know,
Yeah, it's rough. It was rough.
Going to the Laughing Ogre, which is a comic book shop here in Columbus, Ohio. And my dad would, you know, write my mom a letter. This is before like the internet, or, you know, even before you could call regularly. And it'd have a list of like the comic books in which I'd need to go get like for my dad, so that we could send them to him. But yeah, it's hard. Your access to things in, you know, prison, or it's just,
and another thing, Ben, like when you create something, you want to create something that the world has never seen. This is the challenge. I don't want to draw something that everybody's seen already. You know, I need to take this. I take an elephant, for example, and I put for its ears, I make a modified a butterfly monarch, okay, as the ears. And as the tussle here, I put a ear corn, some corn. Yeah. So it's just coming up with something nobody's ever seen. And that's where you get the real joy. The real joy comes from creating something that the world has never seen.
I mean, yeah, creativity and expression
Yeah.
is all the freedom, right?
Yes,
as I
it's
said,
so easy to copy.
Yeah, no one can ever take that away from you. You know what I mean? Your creativity is a thing I believe that will find a way to grow. It'll find a way, always.
Yes.
Much like, which I think is a really important thing. You know, I think that's
Right.
How would, you know, your creativity seems to have passed into, you know, Valentina, because you both are extraordinarily creative. And that's what I mean by creativity as freedom, creativity as activism.
Right.
You know, both are very free in very different ways. We can talk about, you know, practical freedom, you know, in the sense of, Valentina, you were not incarcerated. If we listen to Toni Morrison and we listen to the function of freedom, which is to free others, you know, to lift somebody up to where you were at, you quite literally did that with your father. And it sounds to me like your father, you know, was constantly doing that with you through his creative practice and through his creative process, right? He is seeing the world and showing the world in a perspective that's wholly unique to him, right? And you're able to, you know, kind of harness that energy and then bring it back tenfold, right? And that's what I mean by like creativity. I think that's what you mean, you know, when you say it's food for your body. It'll make your body strong, right? To talk about like, you know, not having had that creativity or that creative drive and what was your mental state like that, you know?
Well, let me say this.
Not having a drive.
Say it again, Ben. Sorry about that.
You can go ahead. I was just going to say, I wanted to know what that shift in thinking or that shift in feeling.
Well, I did more than just draw, you know. I read up to about 700 books on everything from self-help to business, to autobiographies, to history. You name it, I read it. I wanted to be well-rounded. And in life, what I realized and what I've learned is that we don't get to choose whatever challenge come our way. All of us is going to be challenged with something, okay? And for me, it was 27 years of false imprisonment. And once we realize that, then we'll have a whole lot more peace, you know, during our journey. That I got to the point where it was so many disappointments that came. All my appeals were denied, okay? That I had to find meaning in my suffering, okay? And in order to do that, I began to embrace anything that was supposed to make me feel uncomfortable in this life, if that makes any sense. Okay, but this is the only way that I can take that negative force or negative action that's coming my way and conquer it.
Yeah.
So in regards, let me just say, in regards to mental, you know, when you read about slavery, you read about the Holocaust, you read about wars, you know, you read about all the horrific things that happen on this planet. And you read about a 10-year-old kid dying of cancer. This kid is not going to see their 11th birthday, okay? So it's so important for us to not only count our blessings, but to acknowledge that not only is life short, but you have to make the most of it, and you have to become actually one with the universe in order to, you know, have a successful ending. And for me, it was all about what kind of legacy are you going to leave? How are you going to make your daughter proud? You know? And so just walking out of prison was not enough for me. Okay, now the second chapter starts. Okay, and here we are. I mean, since I've been out, let me just say, since I've been out, you know, I've been to the Emmy Awards, been nominated twice for Emmy. I've received a gold medal from the Vatican Church. I met Tiger Woods. I went to the Masters. I've been in the Golf Digest 5 times. Michelle Obama purchased a piece of artwork. I have my own show called Draw and Talk with Me, and I've completed 35 episodes. And on my show, I teach people how to draw. I have 4 Hall of Fame athletes. How is that possible? I casted these guys on my own. You know, so if I give up in that 6x8 prison cell, you guys don't get the opportunity to see me or Valentina right now. So my message to everybody is that no matter what you're going through, you hang in there and you fight the good fight, because victory is going to come your way, and you're going to taste it, you're going to experience it, and even if it's bittersweet, the struggle, the challenge, the obstacles, the forks in the road is all worth it. What you thinking, Ben?
Very good. Very good. So much. I mean, Janice posed a really good question about storytelling and healing, and what storytelling might be the role. Like, what is the role of storytelling in terms of, you know, healing and creativity? I kind of want to tweak that a little bit, but it seems like you are clearly taking authorship of your story, right?
Well, let me just say this. Well, I just finished my book, The Soul of an Unfreed Man. Okay, I hand wrote 470 pages. It took me about 5 months because I wrote it one time and then I rewrote it. And then I wrote up to 6 hours a day every day. And it takes you on that journey, you know, from day one all the way up to the day that I was released. So, I mean, I have so many stories in there, you know. I wanted every page to grab, you know, the reader.
Why? Why do you want to grab the reader?
There's so many lessons in life for us, right? And I went through so many different things, you know, and I wanted to not only just to share what happened to me with my readers, but to also provide solutions, okay? That a lot of times in life, you don't have to actually experience something to actually, you know, feel it and feel it in your spirit, you know, and to learn from someone else's journey, or
To free
challenge.
somebody else.
Yes, also. So, I mean, this book covers everything from not just, from a prisoner's perspective, but also from a worldly perspective in the sense that, why are we here on this planet? And what is our purpose? What makes us happy? What makes us sad? How do we take control of our destiny? All of these things are written and explained in my book in a way that it just gives viewers, it's come from my perspective, it gives my readers, I believe, a different, something different to look at, a different perspective to consider, okay? Because I do believe a lot of times we think we have everything figured out, but there's always something that we're missing. It could be the fact that we haven't even taken a walk in the park in 10 years or looked up at the moon and enjoyed it, because life is so fast paced that we forget the simpler things. I mean, and I find a way to incorporate all of these things in my book.
What about you, Valentina? What's the role of storytelling been for you in terms of your healing, your creativity?
For me, it's just the fact that your story is yours. And although everybody is going through their own struggle, and I got to reword this real quick. Your story is important, no matter what, role you play in your community, in your household. Your story is yours, and it's what you have, it's what you own. So for me, being able to pass on that story to, my father's grandchildren, being able to pass it on to his great grandchildren, it's so important. Sorry, there's a voice coming in. Did you guys hear me though? Your story is yours. It's what you own, it's what you have, and it's important. And that's just the importance of storytelling, being able to continue to inspire, continue to uplift and motivate everyone around you.
Very good. I think I may just want to know how you all are taking time for yourselves, considering the state of the world currently. How you're resting or how you're healing, and then I can turn it over to some questions from the field. How about that?
Well, for me, I haven't gotten any rest. I haven't rested.
I don't
since I've been out. So right now, whether it's helping to take care of my 92-year-old grandmother, I'm staying with her, and then run from there to my mother's house. She's 73, to answering emails all day, to drawing commissions, to answering prison calls. I started a foundation called the Art of Freedom to help fight against wrongful convictions and sentencing guidelines in America. So I'm constantly busy from 6 o'clock in the morning all the way to sometimes 10 o'clock at night. But I promised myself that I'm going to slow down and I'm going to get some rest and relax a little bit, just a little.
For me, it's been more or less just sitting back and taking the time to spend with my 3-year-old twins, my babies, my joys, my life right now. Like my father said before, life is so fast paced, and just trying to, appreciate the time that I have with them. And I've also, taken his steps in writing a book myself but that's like later in life. Just, just embracing everything that I've been through personally and my family, and just taking the time to appreciate everything in life.
All right. I think we can turn it over to all the participants. If anyone has any questions for Valentino, or myself, you can go ahead and ask in the chat. There is a question on social media. Does everyone have social media accounts in which they can follow?
Yes, I have Instagram, Valentino Dixon. Just put in Valentino Dixon and you'll find me on Instagram.
There you go.
Or can you hear me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to purchase a piece of artwork, you can go to valentinodixon.com. I have a website.
I'm on Facebook, Tina D. You can also find me as my father's daughter on my Facebook page. That's about it for me.
Very good. I'm lowercase b on Instagram, and that's mostly photographic work. It's at LOWRCASEB. What are some of the art and activism organizations participants can work with if they want to get involved? I know a few off the top of my head, which would be Healing Broken Circles. I happen to be a board member on there, always looking for volunteers. We work at a Marion Correctional Institution. There's People's Justice Project, which Valentina is quite familiar with. And Valentino, could you mention yours again?
My foundation is the artoffreedom.org. Okay, and it fights against wrongful convictions and sentencing reform, because we have some of the harshest sentencing guidelines in the world, which is why we have over 2.3 million people incarcerated, which accounts to the mass incarceration. Okay, and my goal is to compel not only the president, but Congress, the Senate, the House to realize that these are human rights issues here, and civil rights violations, and also constitutional rights violations when you sentence people to crimes that or sentencing that does not warrant that time, that amount of time. Okay, there's countless cases, and I know a lot of them. For example, two nonviolent burglaries, the guy is sentenced to 50 years to life. Okay. Another guy who I visited was given a 20-year to life sentence. However, he's been in jail now for 46 years because the New York State Parole Board refused to release him. And, after he was given a 20-year sentence. It's countless stories. And once we reduce the sentencing, this is the main cause for our system not being fair, justice, and equal for all people, because the system is not designed or equipped to give the poor person a fair trial. And this is what we need to eradicate. We need to see it as an American problem, not just, those that have family members that are incarcerated.
Yeah. There was a very intriguing question, which was about you all ever receiving an apology for your wrongful conviction.
It's not going to happen. No. The thing is this. Integrity doesn't come easily, or honor. And when careers are at stake, in public embarrassment, some people, find it really hard to admit that, we screwed up here and we owe these people an apology. It's just the way it is. And you see it time after time, However, I've seen it on just a couple of occasions where prosecutors have, admitted to making a mistake and apologizing, but that's very rare. It doesn't happen. That when it does happen, it's far and few and in between. It's just, it just doesn't happen.
Before we move on to any more questions, can I just please ask you guys to check out Making an Exoneree program with Marty Tankliff. That is another program that I would really love for people to, get involved in any way. I know those undergrad students appreciate being in the classroom like that, where they're just encouraged and inspired. If you guys can just please, makinganexoneree.com, just check it out, please. You can donate, you can sign petitions, you can help them protest, whatever.
Yes, because let me speak on that also, because the Georgetown students took on 5 cases at the time, and I was the only one released. Okay, the other 4 guys still remained in prison, and one of them has passed away, John Moss, and which is a tragedy in itself. And these are clear-cut cases of innocence. But however, we have a very stubborn system. And even when you present evidence that this person did not commit this crime, those in a position to do the right thing, most of the time just refuse. This is why individuals end up, spending 10, 20, 30 years in prison. You ask yourself, how is this possible? Because those cases were swept under the rug, even though the evidence existed. Swept under the rug, and a lot of people covered for each other, until a university gets involved, and kind of forces their hand. In my case, it was not just Georgetown, it was the Golf Digest, it was the Golf Channel, it was a bunch of, a lot of support, and this is what's needed.
Very good.
I'm just seeing that Martin Tankliff is on this Zoom call. Martin, do you want to ask a question directly? Introduce yourself and then ask a question directly. You may not be able to hear me.
Yeah, he more than likely didn't hear you. Okay.
Well, let me just ask a question that he put in the chat. Valentina, this is to you, Valentina. To all the people that doubted you during the years that you fought for your father, what would you tell them now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Well, Valentina can answer the question, then I'll hop in.
She want to choose her words wisely.
Yes, I need a second. I need a second. Go ahead, Marty.
So I am Martin Tankliff. I am an adjunct professor at Georgetown and Torah Law School. I am a New York State exoneree who is wrongfully incarcerated for almost 18 years. I'm also an attorney in New York State. Valentino's case was one of our first few cases that my childhood friend, Mark Howard, who decided to go to law school to fight for me. He's a tenured professor at Georgetown, and he and I decided to start this class at Georgetown, and Valentino's was one of the first cases that was chosen. It was an honor and a privilege to work for Valentino, and I think he's a shining example of what innocent men and women in prison are about. They're motivational, they're inspirational, and we say this time and time again that, too many innocent men and women are wrongfully incarcerated. There are also too many men and women who are guilty of crimes who are in prison for far too long. And I think when you hear from people like Valentino, myself, and other people, the system should wake up and understand that we use incarceration more for punishment than we do for rehabilitation purposes. You know, when you hear an institution is called a correctional institution or a rehabilitation center, many men and women who go to prison don't need correcting or rehabilitation. They made a single mistake in their life that does not define who they are. And the more people hear Valentino and others speak, the more they'll have a better understanding of humanity and decency that really does exist within the prison system. And Valentina rocks, because guess what? Everybody who doubted her, I could use some choice words, but I won't. But I think it should empower her and others that when you believe in something, never give up, because pursuit of truth and justice and the anger that she probably had against all the naysayers motivated her even more to prove them all wrong. And I remember seeing Valentino when Valentino walked out, and I said, you know, you could tell all the naysayers now that you were right, okay? And karma was on your side, and they should suffer for all the harm that they did to you over all those years.
And I do finally have what I would like to say to all the people who doubted me. I don't have like any, you know, karma or anything against them, because they're human just like me. But my thing is, take your passion and run with it. That's it. Like, whatever you are inspired to do, I did it. I took my passion and run it. Now it's your turn.
So I'm looking at the time. I'm the timekeeper. Ben, is there anything else that you wanted to ask or say, or Valentino, is there anything? And then we just have one closing piece that we want to do.
I do not. I wanted to say thank you to both of you, to everyone. This is great. I will never forget it.
Well, for me, later on this year, I hope to gather as many people as possible in March to Albany, New York State governor, to compel them, or compel the governor, the lawmakers, to pass a good time bill, okay? There's thousands of inmates that deserve their freedom, that have not only rehabilitated themselves, but have met all the requirements that was asked of them. And the New York State parole system still refuses to grant them parole. We have over 9,000 people in New York State that's over the age of 65. Okay, unheard of anywhere in the world. And I need people to rally behind me. I need support. I need students, you know, to come to this rally in New York State. So please, if you guys have watched this, please spread the word around the campus, and please help me out here. You can reach me on Instagram. Just inbox me if you want to support. Then also, you know, I need money to fight some of these wrongful convictions that's brought to my attention through my foundation, The Art of Freedom. So if anybody, you know, out there can help with that, please reach out. You know, it's greatly needed. Thanks a lot for having me, and thanks a lot for listening.
So I just have one closing that we'd like to do. Valentino, when I heard about you and when I saw your work and when we installed your exhibition, I was teaching a course on African and African-American art history. And there's a tradition called oriki, which is called citation poetry, or praise poetry is another way to think about it. And it's done as a way in the oral traditions, as a way to give biography about a person, as a way to celebrate their life, as a way to, you know, recognize the work they've created or what they've been through. And so I invited Claudia Owusu, who is an Otterbein alum from the creative writing program, to create an oriki for you. And so I'm going to share my screen, and she's done a wonderful video recording. It's an oral tradition, and so it's meant to be read.
Hi, my name is Claudia Owusu. I'm a writer and a poet, and today I will be reading Praise Be, a poem for Valentino. In praise of sovereignty, in praise of the Lord's hand holding a heart close, in praise of all the years that the locusts ate, in praise of all the years restored and given back tenfold, in praise of laughter, in praise of mothers and daughters marching, in praise of Jericho's walls falling, in praise of the light that shines, in praise of the wilderness, in praise of dreams and hopes and thoughts and memories, and the thing that lingers when the heart is no longer full, in praise of the words we speak, in praise of let there be's, let there be new ground, justice, a helping hand, truth, art, truth, healing, time, truth, an offering, family, truth again, truth again, truth again. Let there be a saving, something just there in the nick of time to quiet the pain, a new conclusion, what should have been but wasn't, all that was separated now called home, all the crooked paths now made straight and significant, in praise of love, in praise of Valentino. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this webinar, and thank you, Valentino, for being with us today. I do want to let you know to keep your ears posted and stay connected to Otterbein's Alumni Association Alumni Relations Program. We will be doing more around Valentino's life and work. We're hoping to have a book reading group when his book is dropped, and that can take a lot of forms, and we're also hoping for some other programming. So stay tuned and have a wonderful evening.